Would you hurt a fly?
A fly? Hurt a fly? Well, that's a very interesting and provocative question. I know an old lady.
You know an old lady who would hurt a fly?
I don't know why, but yes, I do. I do know such an old lady. But as for me personally, I find such acts of wanton cruelty unconscionable.
Unconscionable?
And if I'm not mistaken, the Holy Hebrew Scriptures take a strong and unequivocal stance against cruelty toward any living being, dead or alive.
That's very true, like when the Torah says, don't cook a kid in its mother's milk.
Exodus chapter 23, verse 19.
Right, and the verse is repeated in chapter 34, verse 26.
And a third time in Deuteronomy 14:21.
Wow, you really know your scriptures.
Well, it ain't called a good book for nothing.
So you never eat meat cooked in milk?
Never, never, never. Except my mother's chicken cacciatore with mozzarella cheese.
Wait, but
Look, I ain't necessarily Jewish, so that halacha does not apply to me. Not to mention, the chicken cooked with dairy products is only asur d'Rabbanan.
that's true. But I guess you understand the symbolic significance of not cooking a kid goat or a calf.
Or a baby lamb.
Or a baby lamb in its mother's milk.
Look, I ain't necessarily a vegetarian either, but the thought of bringing a pot of milk to a boil and then sticking the offspring of that animal that gave you that milk into that pot and cooking it, well, there's something about such a cruel gesture.
The cruelty of the gesture, well put. Because after all, when a kid goat or lamb or calf is cooked in its mother's milk, it's no longer alive at that point. So the cruelty can really have nothing to do with the pain suffered by the baby goat or lamb or calf.
At that point, indeed, the symbolism of such a barbaric culinary gesture is just cruel.
Which implies that the halacha proscribing the cooking of a domestic baby animal in its mother's milk is really about distancing human beings from cruelty.
Cruelty is a terrible character trait.
Of course, the Torah doesn't go so far as to prohibit the consumption of meat altogether.
God said to Noah, every moving thing that lives shall be food for you. However, flesh with the life therein, which is the blood therein, you shall not eat.
But while the Torah does make this concession to meat eaters, it does frown upon any flagrant act of cruelty towards animals.
I frown upon it myself, è molto triste. And after all, let's not forget Ever Minachai.
Of course, Ever Minachai. It's also a fundamental Torah law.
A law, not just for Jews, but for every descendant of Noah.
All of humanity, exactly. It's a fundamental law of being human, of humaneness, that an animal must not be eaten while it's still alive.
If you're gonna eat it, then kill it first.
And if cruelty towards animals, even dead animals, is such an unconscionable thing,
That's right.
if cruelty towards animals
It's such an unconscionable thing.
then cruelty
Cruelty
towards
human beings.
Cruelty towards fellow human beings. How unconscionable is cruelty towards fellow human beings?
Egregious. Forget about it.
Forget about it.
Anime crudeli. Personally, I would never hurt another human being.
You certainly wouldn't cook a human being in milk.
Not even if he was dead. From natural causes, of course.
He prayeth best who loveth best all things, both great and small.
Even a little lamb.
Or a little goat.
Or a little fly.
Or a little person.
A person's a person.
No matter how small.